Good day, guys and gals. So today's video is about language schools and institutions. Are they useful? Are they inefficient? And so on and so forth. So the short answer for that is I think they are inefficient. Well, because the reason behind that is because what they do actually, these schools and institutions, they take the language, they implement it in the curriculum, and what they do is they turn it into something very inanimate, something boring, something dull. And a language shouldn't be considered as such. A language should be considered as something lively, something to make use of, something active, something real, something authentic. And what they do is actually they kill out the authenticity of the language and they turn it into materials such as like any other materials such as geography and history and science and so on and so forth. And I think that this per se is very inefficient because you're turning the language into something, into theoretical concepts and grammar rules and conjugation tables and lists of irrelevant vocabulary and so on and so forth. And this is exactly what language teachers and instructors do. So they plan your language learning ahead of time, and they tell you what you should do and what to expect and what to learn, and they give you lists of vocabulary in order for you to memorize them. And I think that this is very inefficient because you're learning irrelevant things, irrelevant vocabulary that you're probably not going to be using at all in the span of your lifetime. And so you go to these classes and you sit there all comfortably and you have high expectations that you're going to learn everything and that the teacher is going to spoon feed you all the information that you need and all the concepts, and you're going to make use of the concepts once you're out there in real life, in the real world. And yeah, you're gonna sit there, do your homework, sit passively for hours and hours, endlessly, and you're gonna sit for an exam, and then you're going to pass the exam, you're going to get a very good grade, probably an A+, if not more than that. And then once confronted in real life, you're going to find out that it's very, very different from what you've been taught and learned at schools and institutions. You're going to find out that it's really different and that you're not really responding to this kind of environment because they haven't really they haven't prepared you for such an environment, for such an authentic and real environment, because they were focusing on these theoretical concepts and theoretical grammar rules and lists of relevant vocabulary that no one actually uses in real life. And so you're gonna be lost, for that matter. You're gonna be frustrated and you're gonna be demotivated probably. So I think that language schools and institutions are good for one thing. It's if you're applying for a job abroad, a company has hired you, and the minimal expectation, the minimum requirement is to have an B2 C1, according to the I'm referring to the European Framework of Languages. And the minimum requirement is a C1, so you're going to go there and you're going to sit for an exam, you're going to do all the homework and so on and so forth, and you're going to really work your ass off. And in order for you to go there and get the job and blah blah blah, but in real life it's very different. It's very different. So I think if you want to really speak with authenticity, you have proper pronunciation, get into the language, into the role, make it a part of you. I think that it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You're going to have your head filled up with information, theoretical concepts and grammar rules, and you have all sorts of different types of vocabulary and so on and so forth, but it's not gonna make you speak the language with authenticity. I met a lot of people who have been taking Spanish classes for over 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years, and when I confront them and when I ask them a simple question such as "Hola, buenos días, ¿qué tal estás? Hi, how are you? What's up?" All they answer is "bien." And I get a feel that they're afraid, to get into conversation because, they have a certain fear because they haven't been trained to to deal with these kind of this kind of fear. They're backing off all the time, and they're afraid to get into a conversation and actually speak, making a lot of mistakes and so on. So I think that it's very inefficient. And what language institutions and schools, they don't focus on is basically, they don't focus on first of all on establishing a good fundament, a good mindset, because it's all about the mindset. So before jumping straight into grammatical concepts and conjugation rules and so on and so forth, all the other beautiful aspects of languages, before jumping straight into all of this, they give they don't give a shit about your mindset, about that you have to deal with how to deal with mistakes, how not to back off, how to have a solid foundation before jumping straight into all that. How to keep yourself motivated, how to keep yourself inspired, how to take advantage of online resources out there, how to make it into a habit, learning language, make it into a habit, creating a habit around it, and so on and so forth. And I think it's a very important aspect to touch down on. And this particular aspect, they do not, treat it like it should be, basically. And this is, per se, this is super inefficient. What else? Well, that's basically it. So it's the mindset they do not work on before jumping straight into grammatical aspects and all the theory and whatnot. It's the lack of practice of authentic material, authentic resources, authentic speaking that is lacking, I think. And it's basically, it's basically the high expectations that students have when it comes to getting into those language institutions and applying for them and so on and so forth. And the most for me so far, the most useful thing that I've done, the most efficient learning scheme that I've been into is pretty much learning myself, because I follow my own rhythm. I know what works for me, by trial and error. I know what really works for me, and I try to replicate this over and over again. And that's exactly what language schools are failing in doing. Because, so you have a teacher that is teaching to 30 students, teaching the same way, at the same pace, the same rhythm. And this actually kills out the fun of learning and kills out and make it very inefficient, so to speak. So imagine 30 students, they have different, learning abilities, different, experiences, different everything. Basically 30 students or 20 students, 20, 30 are pretty much very different one another. And you have one teacher giving the exact same thing to all of them. What result would you expect out of this teaching, out of this, learning curriculum? And what else? Yeah, well, but that's basically it. I think language institutions are killing out the fun of language learning there. Giving you all the theory that, well, it's good to have theory, but basically what they're doing is putting a lot of emphasis on the theory and making it a huge part of language learning, which is basically not, because the biggest part is actually living it, is living through it, breathing in and out this language. And they're failing. I think they're failing big time into achieving this kind of thing. And well, yeah, I think that's about it for this video. If you have any comments, like to comment about, if you find that language institutions are useful or not, just drop a comment down there, and I'll try to give an answer as soon as possible. And well, that's about it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was a useful video for you guys. And I'll be more than glad to get back to you as soon as I have some free time in the future. So goodbye for now.